Welcome to Facing Tyson.
One defeat. Tyson with a left hook right up in the nose. He's got him in big trouble. If he does...
Mike Tyson's a champion.
The podcast where we hear from some of the men who faced off against the baddest man on the planet.
Around on your opponent's side and then crack. Oh, he got a right uppercut. It's hurt. Tubbs is hurt.
Go ahead.
Good stuff.
Check.
Yes.
I duck no questions, and I duck no opponents.
Good. That's what I like to hear, boss. Okay, so you were born in 1968 in Medfield, Massachusetts. What can you remember?
Yes, sir.
What can you remember from your childhood in Medfield? Like, was it a happy childhood?
Oh yes. You know, it was a very small community back then. It's grown today. Today, Medfield is got a lot of people in it now. It's got about 15,000, 20,000. Back then, it was like 8,000 or 9,000.
It was like a quiet, rural sort of town. Obviously, I've never been to the States,
Yes.
so, yeah.
Now, if you know anything about Boston history, the Charles River.
Okay, I've heard of it.
The Charles River went all the way out to Medfield.
So was there a lot of industry there when you were a child?
No.
Okay.
Very real little, very little.
So obviously you come from a well-known boxing family with your grandfather and your father, both known professional heavyweights.
Yes.
How much were you aware of like your family's background in the sport when you were growing up?
Well, I knew about my father early. I did not learn about my grandfather till later on, till I was about 12, 13 years old. But see, the problem was my grandfather, I never knew my grandfather. My grandfather died before I was born.
Okay.
About a year and a half before I was born.
Right. And your father retired, was it a year or two before you were born?
Yes, correct. So as he, 7, 8 years old, I can remember going up into the attic in our home and finding all these magazines with my father on the cover.
From when he fought Floyd Patterson for the title.
Yes. He was on the cover of Ring magazine. And that was about a year and some change before. And it was a big, he was big on the cover of Ring magazine, the Bible of boxing.
Exactly.
It was a great picture of my dad punching a speed bag. One hand punch of the speed bag.
Right.
Which I'm not even sure he knew the picture was being taken.
You were 8 years old when you found out Ring magazine, were you?
That was Ring magazine and Sports Illustrated.
Okay,
Now, Sports Illustrated was like the only sports magazine back then. In the 60s, even the 70s. I mean, if you got it was like a big picture, profile, just his head. And if you got on the cover of that, I mean, that was huge. Coincidentally enough, I was named after my father's boxing manager. His name was Peter Fuller.
Right.
So I was named after him. And there are no coincidences.
It was fate.
I was the third son. I was the third generation. That's pretty coincidental.
It doesn't happen very often, does it? To be fair, you get father and son, like professional boxers, but not too often. There's 3 generations.
Exactly.
So, so when did you start training, and
Well,
when did you start with boxing?
After a lot of, I mean, where was I going to box? In Little Medfield. And I did not win my first amateur fight till I was 19. I was a sophomore in college, which I went to Bridgewater State College, which is now Bridgewater State University. But back then, and it was right next to Brockton, Massachusetts. So
Rocky Marciano, yeah.
Marvelous Marvin Hagler. My father would take myself, my little brother Snubby, and our stepbrother David to go see Marvin train.
How old were you at this time? When you were 19 or a bit younger?
No, I was like, this is the early 80s. I was like 12, 13, 14 years old. And we loved Marvin Hagler, and like my father knew him well. And so like one time we went down there, we watched the train, and then Marvin was like, "Oh, come on into my condo next door here." And and you see the picture of it on my Facebook or my Instagram of us sitting with Marvin Hagler. When you're a kid, like that was like the greatest thing in the world.
I can imagine. Was he a world champion at that time? He was already a world champion.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Oh yes, yeah, yes. And of course, then at the end of my freshman year in college, '87, April of '87, he, lost a very controversial fight to Sugar Ray Leonard. And I give Marvin all the credit in the world because he never did the I quit, I come back, I quit, I come back. Once he retired, that was it. He said, I'm done.
Yeah, one of the all-time greats of the middleweight division.
Yeah, yes. And unfortunately, Marvin recently just passed away about a year ago. Yeah. Maybe a little less.
I think a little less, yeah, 6 months or something.
No, it was more than 6 months, but everybody here is COVID, paranoia of COVID, and the COVID vaccination shot. There's all kinds of paranoia about this stuff. And I heard, because I first started training at the Petrelli gym in Brockton in April of '87. I'm sorry, it's September of '87. And I was there till early '91. And so I got the inside word that it was due to a bout. He had a heart attack due to a bout with cancer. And like people don't understand COVID, but cancer is still out there, killing many people.
So you took up boxing seriously at the age of 19. Like, can you remember what you what you felt when you
Well,
first walked into the gym or you started sparring? Like, what emotions?
thank God, back then, used cars were cheap, and gasoline was cheap. And I had a car, and I drove this Buick Skylark to the gym, Brockton, every night. I would go to classes in the morning, in the early afternoons, and then I would eat early. I would eat at 4 o'clock every day, and then be at the gym by 6:30. In this country, any good boxing gym starts at, it goes from like 5 o'clock at night to 9, because it is a sport of the poor. It is a sport of the poor, and people work, people have jobs, and then they train.
It's pretty similar over here, to be honest, as well. Like, there's not
Right.
many places.
I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with the amateur gyms, So I read somewhere that you had 21 amateur fights. What were the highlights?
That's it. That's it.
Did you win any titles or local championships?
Oh yeah, yes. The biggest fight I won, well, actually the two biggest. Now, in only my eighth or ninth amateur fight, I knocked out James Johnson, who would become an Olympic trials finalist, which is not easy to do at all. And when I knocked him out, he was ranked like number 5 in the country. And I caught him a good punch. I put him down, and in the first round, and then he got up, and I went to work on him and got him some good punches, and the referee stopped the fight.
So were there any hopes for you to go to the Olympics or to try out for the Olympics?
Well, at that time, again, with only the short amount of amateur fights, there was no, I won the New England Diamond Belt Championship that night, which is not really seen as any big title, but it was to me.
Yeah.
Then, 3 fights later, I beat Bobby Harris on a unanimous decision, and he was another one who was a super heavyweight world champion in the amateurs. Well, both of these guys never went anywhere in the pros.
Okay.
But Vinny Vecchione approached me. I was going into the Petrelli gym one night. I was either going in or I was coming out. And he said, "Hey, look, my name's Vinny Vecchione, and I know your father, and I used to play football with your Uncle Brian." And he said, "Would you come down to Whitman, right next to Brockton, and spar with a fighter I have?" I said, "Sure, no problem." And because I was an amateur, and nobody was really managing me or in control of my career. So I said, "Sure, yes, I will." So I went down there and I sparred with him once, South Shore Boxing Gym, who would later become my assistant trainer. Cliff Fippen Vinny said, "This kid's going to be a good, very good pro fighter." The kid was like, "Really?" And he goes, Trust me, he is. So I stayed, the Petrelli brothers had also, they just gotten into a family feud, and they were, dividing the gym. One was running it at night, one was running it in the day. And it was not a conducive atmosphere. So I went with them down to South Shore Box Club. And I had my last amateur fight with Vinny. And I had 54 pro fights with him and Cliff also.
So I read that you actually got knocked down in the opening seconds of your professional debut against
Yeah, it was a push. It was a push.
Were you nervous or anything?
I have the film. It was nothing. It was a push.
Right. Okay. But going into your
and I knocked the guy. I got up and knocked the guy out in 40 seconds.
Yeah. I was going to mention that. But how did you feel like turning pro? Were you aiming for like a regional title or world title, or like were you?
Well, it's funny you say that, because back then, if you were a heavyweight, you had to weigh more than 195 pounds. So I weighed 196 pounds.
So you're a
So I thought I was going to be a cruiserweight, and I said it. I hope to be a cruiserweight champion of the world. And Vinny was like, Peter, privately he was like, Peter, trust me, you're going to be a heavyweight. He wasn't lying, because like 2 fights later, I weighed 205 pounds.
Okay. How old were you when you turned professional?
I was just about to turn 23. So really, in August 23rd, 1991, I was 22, but I turned 23 October 6th.
Okay.
So this October 6th, in a couple of weeks, I'll be 53. I can't complain.
You got a full head of hair at least, eh? That's something not everyone can brag about.
Like I say, McNeelys go gray. We don't go bald. Hey, as you can see, the grays in my beard.
It's a sign of wisdom, though, right?
I'm a pirate. Peter McGraybeard.
So you went on to win the next 23 fights, 17 by stoppage, with many of them coming in the first round. Is that when you received the nickname Hurricane?
I named myself that because my pro debut was outdoors at Boston University, right in Boston. It was on Nickerson football field. Boston University's football field. And so the fight always got postponed by Hurricane Bob. So I said, Hurricane Peter McNeeley. Yeah. It almost got postponed by Hurricane Bob. So I said, Hurricane Peter McNeeley. Oh. And sadly enough, the southeast United States just got hammered by Hurricane Ida. Sad. And Ida came up the East Coast, and there's flooding all the way up into Boston, Pennsylvania, a ton of flooding, New Jersey, New York, a ton of flooding. God bless all those people down there.
Yeah, definitely. In 1994, you fought for the New England heavyweight title against Stanley Wright, who was a giant He was a giant.
Stanley was a 6'10" former Canadian professional basketball player, and he would, he did like a double illegal. He would stiff arm me, holding his jab out, holding the left out, and then he would wind up and hit me with the heel of the laces.
Right.
And I was way ahead. I was way ahead on points going into the. It was in the eighth round, in the middle of the eighth round, and there was a lot of jealousy, locally, because I was 24-0, and they stopped the fight on the cut. I mean, I 2 more rounds, please. I would have won the fight easily. And the cut was in my eyebrow. There was no damage or anything that was going to happen. Nothing. But we came back from that. Now, I got 60 stitches in the cut.
From that fight?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, again, he did the illegal blows with the heel. The heel is it laces.
The laces, yeah.
Nobody said anything about that, though. See, there was back then, there was no cut rule. Like today, if you go past the 5th round or 6th round, then it would go to the judge's cards. So I would have been a big winner if that was, even into the 2000s, I would have been a big winner.
So after your first loss, were you still?
So Vinny Macchione said, now, because Don King was already looking at us.
Oh, okay.
To a promotional contract. So Vinny Macchione was an old school boxing guy. He knew he did all three: manager, trainer, promoter. Or he was a fight guy.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, one of the best fight guys you ever met. He knew what he was doing. We fought now. Only 6 weeks later, we fought 3 fights in 3 weeks in 3 different states.
This was after the Stanley Wright fight.
Yes.
So the cut.
Yes.
That just goes to show that the cut wasn't that bad at all, right? If you could fight again.
Exactly. Yeah. Put it this way: the first fight I fought down in Fort Smith, Arkansas. With Bo, Vinny made friends with Bo Williford. Bo Williford was a fight guy down in Arkansas. And God bless. Vinny is dead. Bo Williford's dead. But you know what? Time marches on. So we fought 3 fights in 3 weeks. In 3 different states, like 2 first-round knockouts and 1 second-round knockout. And Don King, Vinny told me, Don King said, these guys mean business. Sign them up. So April, May, it was say, May 12th, 94, I signed a contract with a promotional contract with Don King.
Was that to fight against Oliver McCall?
Exactly. Yeah. That ended up happening months later. Now, I'd gone up to upstate New York. I was way up in Plattsburgh, New York. I mean, I wasn't far of the Canadian border. And I drove this shitbox car that I had up there. And I just, little by little, I was like the little train that could. I was like the little train that could, so and then, so I was only up there for 2 nights, but the second night, Vinny calls me up. I called him when I got there, to make sure he knew I was okay. And he said, Peter, if I call you at this number, is that okay? I said, yeah, no problem, Vinny. Please do. So the next night he calls up and he said, listen, I don't mean to ruin your weekend, but you got to get back here, ASAP. So I said, okay. So I drove all the way back. And Vinny, at this time, Vinny was a Brockton guy. He was a Brockton, Massachusetts guy for decades. But he was from Braintree. And he went back home to his family home in Braintree to care for his elderly, sick mother. Okay. And so, but now by this time his mother had passed away like a year earlier, but he was still there. Him and his wife and his son and his daughter were all still there. So Vinny, I didn't even go back to Medfield. I drove from Plattsburgh, New York, down to Braintree, which it was 20-minute drive. Depending on the traffic, it was a 20-minute drive from Medfield. And so I said, screw it. I'll just forget about Medfield. I'll just go right to Vinny. So he pulls me outside onto his front lawn. And he says, I want you to remember where you were when I tell you you're going to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world. And now because when he said, Peter, I don't mean to ruin your weekend, but come home. Because that night, Oliver McCall knocked out Lennox Lewis. As you can see from me telling you the story, I can remember it like it was yesterday.
So when in 1995, then you got the offer to fight Tyson. So the McCall fight.
Well, so then we went to the Rainbow Room at Rockefeller Center, New York City. Oliver McCall comes back with the championship belt, and him and Don King said that they were going to fight me next. Blah 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 blah. It got canceled by the WBC stepped in and said no. You can't fight McNeeley. McNeeley has to be in the top 10 heavyweights in the world. And at that time, I was ranked 12. I was ranked number 12. But and you know what, too? Like, when I got back from the press conference in New York City, there was like a press conference going on at my mother's home in Medfield. It was pretty, like thinking about, I mean, at this time I'm 24 years old, 25 years old, and think about it now, like, I was still a kid to me. I was still a kid. You know what I mean? And I come back and there's all these cars in front of my mom's house. I'm like, wow. Would
you say it was like a little bit overwhelming for you, all of this attention?
Yeah, but you know what? It was a good pre-run for what was going to happen down the road with Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
So when the WBC stepped in a month later and said, no, the fight's not happening, you know, I was bummed out. But you know what? Vinny said, Pete, don't worry. You know, like, if you were involved with Don King in the early '90s, even any part of the '90s, then Don King had the big fights. And Don King, of the big three back then, the Duvas, the Duva family, Bob Arum and Don King. Don King paid the most of those three. You know, and I hate to be like that, because back then I even today I still don't really care about money. You know what I mean? Like, as long as I got a roof over my head, some food in my refrigerator, and some gas in my car, then I'm doing good.
How did the Tyson fight come about then?
So the Mike Tyson. Now you got to remember too that in late 1994, Mike was still in prison, so nobody knew what was going on. But the rumblings started. Peter McNeeley and Mike Tyson. Peter McNeeley, Mike Tyson, Peter McNeeley. You know, but you know, no, like in the end, who really knew what was going to happen? Mike, you know, nobody knew what was going to happen when Mike got out of prison. Nobody knew. Vinny said to me, Peter, get down here. We're flying to Las Vegas. So at that point now, you know, like, you know, when you're getting on a plane and flying to Las Vegas, now you know you're going to fight Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple. So, you know, and we went to Las Vegas, and you know, we were there. We got there like a day, like in the evening, so that we'll get a good night's sleep. Next morning, get up early and be ready, you know, for this press conference that was going to start at like, you know, 2:00 in the afternoon. You know, we were there, and Mike Tyson came in, and we both, you know, we were both on a big stage at the MGM Grand Garden, Las Vegas. And the MGM had just been built less than a year earlier.
Okay.
You know, it was pretty cool. You know what I mean?
Spanking, yeah.
Pretty cool, man.
Right.
And so now at that point, I'd only been to Vegas one time back in 1989, 6 years earlier. But anyway, so we met on the stage. Me and Mike met. We both signed a contract. And Mike looked me right in the eye, stuck his hand out, shook my hand, and said, "Good luck." You know what? I respected that.
Yeah.
He didn't have to do that.
No.
He didn't have to do that. Look,
Because a lot of people weren't sure about his mental health, weren't they, around that time? Because obviously,
exactly.
Yeah.
No,
But
I mean,
has respect for his opponent, really, hasn't he? You know, and he speaks highly of you now.
you know what? Listen, people think they're fighters. No, this is fighters in general. The fighters are these big, bad guys. And 9.9 times out of 10, You meet a fighter out of the ring, pick good guys.
They got nothing to prove, right? They've proved it all inside the ring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, I couldn't tell you. Now, I'm on both, obviously, both Facebook and Instagram, and I couldn't tell you how many people still challenge me 26 years later.
To box?
Oh, box or fight the street. Hey, Jack, it's utter nonsense.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, this is when you know you were involved with something big in your life. When I'm still getting prank phone calls 26 years later.
Say that changed your life, that fight, like the money, the attention, the fame, everything that came with it.
Well, no, yeah, again, no. The money never had anything to do with it, but it was, you know what? All right. You know what's a great day? You know what's a great day for me today? Now I lived in Norfolk County, like 15 minutes from the Boston city line. I was in Medfield for 30-something years. Then I was in Norwood for 15 years. Now, Norwood's even closer than Medfield to Boston, but they're separated by 2 towns. But, so, I, like, yesterday I did it. Yesterday I went to my local, I moved. Now I live north of Boston. For a restaurant, like it's been 6 years now. I'm now I lived in Norfolk County my whole life. Now I'm up in Essex County. And I go to a great boxing gym called Intens Boxing. Intens with a Z, not an S. And you know what? I go there and I hang out and I give advice to the young amateurs and pros. And the two guys in charge of the gym love when I come in. They love it when I come in.
Of course, yeah.
There's a lot of amateurs there, but then we got a few pros too. But they're all good guys, and they're all good kids. And this is a city, a small city north of Boston, right next to Lowell. Where Mickey Ward is from.
Yeah, Dickie Eklund, right?
Yeah, but like 15 minutes from Lowell. But this town is called Lawrence.
Okay.
Lawrence. And all right, this past Saturday, we had fights in, I'm not that far from the New Hampshire border. And in New Hampshire, they allow pros to fight on the same fight nights as amateurs.
I didn't know that. Okay, it's interesting.
Yeah, like you bet, they should do it in Massachusetts too. They get more fights, more fighters, more money for the boxing commission. But anyways, so we had 2 fighters. We had 1 pro who won big. He won by a first round KO.
What's his name?
Kevin El Gallo Rodriguez, a good kid, young guy. And I drove with him in his car to his right.
Well, I suppose with, the experiences like you've been through is great to give to the younger fighters coming up. Like,
Yes. Then we had our amateur like Josh Valenzuela. These are both Puerto Rican, both Puerto Rican guys. They're good guys, and they know how to fight. And Josh won by a 3-round unanimous decision.
nice.
And so it was a good day and night for intense boxing, Jim.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say, if you don't mind, like going back to the Tyson fight,
Yes,
like
yes.
the fight was over pretty quickly, but obviously you had a game plan, which was to like shock Tyson to take him out early, I imagine, right? Like you like bull rushed him, and you landed a few heavy shots on him for sure. Like, would you, if you could speak to yourself in 1995, like, would you suggest the same game plan, or would you, I don't know, try to jab and move a little bit more?
You know what? And I'm glad you asked that question. There's no what ifs.
No,
I'm a realist. I'm as real gets. There's no what ifs. There's no rewind. There's no rewind in life.
true.
And you know what? I'm happy. Nobody ever went at Mike Tyson like I did. Nobody.
That's true.
And you know what? I took my shot, and 26 years later, I lived with it. I'm okay with it.
That's good to hear, yeah. I mean, to be honest, like, I
No,
would say the fight was stopped maybe a little bit prematurely. I don't know if you agree with that. I'm sure you're
I don't agree. I don't agree because Vinny McNeeley made a great point. He waited a few days. He said, Peter, I'm going to give you a few days to relax. We flew home, and I got in my car, and I drove right back to his home in Braintree. And he said to me, Peter, he said, you know what? It looks way better. And now this is a real fight guy talking, who's been involved in the game for decades. He's been involved in boxing since before I was born.
yeah,
So he knew what he was talking. He said, Peter, trust me, it looks better for the rest of your career and in life that the fight ended with you on your feet. There with you face first in the canvas. And one thing we both know, I know you know this, Jack. Mike Tyson, when he has you hurt, he's like a shark. He's like a shark in blood infested waters. He's on you. He's on you. And you know what? It's call it contrary, call it whatever you want. But Vinny McNeeley's been dead for. My dad's been dead for uh, uh, 11 years to this um, October and late October, and Vinny's been dead longer. But Vinny, to this day, Vinny is still right. He's still right.
he's got a good reputation still.
Looks better with you on your feet.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask, like, when you were starting off as a professional, did you kind of model your style of boxing a little bit on Mike Tyson with this kind of peekaboo?
No, no, I did not. whatever style I had. No, like, all right, like, no, in the amateurs, now Vinny said to me, and he said it to Cliff that night when I sparred with Paul Poirier. Paul Poirier was coming back after like a 10-year layoff, and I sparred him on, and Vinny said, "This kid's got what it takes to turn. I want to be involved with this kid, and we're gonna turn him pro." And you know, and Vinny always said, if you're a heavyweight and you have to be, I'm sorry, if you're a heavyweight and you want to be a good professional, you got to be able to punch. And and only those 20, now, I won 14 of those 21 amateur fights, but 11 of them were by knockout. And nobody was even guiding my career back then. It was a mix of me, my father, and the Petrellis. Like it was too many cooks were spoiling the soup.
Right.
So, but Vinny was right. You got to be able to punch. You want to be a good professional in the heavyweight division, you got to be able to punch.
So what thoughts were running through your head, like in the stare down with Tyson? Because that's one of the most intense stare downs I think Tyson was in. He looked crazy. Like, what was going through your head, before the bell rang?
Look. Yeah. Oh, hey. But you know what? Vinny taught me early, Mike. He said, like, before we ever even thought, Mike Tyson was in jail. He goes, Peter, that's not where the fight is won. The fight is won after the bell rings, not during the pre-fight instruction.
So you just blanked it out.
So,
like.
Now, like, people don't know or realize because they never saw me right, or like YouTube has only become popular in the early 2000s. Like I had 54 professional fights, but that's how I did every fight right at him.
Right. Okay.
There was only a couple that I didn't. But like we're talking like 49 out of the 51 fights right at him. And that's why I had 25 first round knockouts.
Yeah. Because a lot of people are cold, right, in the first round. They're not warmed up properly. You can just...
See, this is what I tell guys at the local gym, pros and amateurs. I tell them, I'm like, listen, trust me when I tell you, you want to be warmed up so good that you're dripping with sweat when you get in the ring.
Yeah.
When you get in the ring, your body should be so warmed up that your body thinks it's the third round already. And Vinny McNeeley used to say this all the time. A real pro fight does not start till after the fourth round. Meaning that everybody's all warmed up. Like you catch a guy cold, it's easy to get that first shot KO, which I obviously mastered that, but nonetheless, he was correct. If you're anywhere from a lightweight to even a heavyweight, a real pro fight does not start till after the fourth round. you're all warmed up. Your body's all warmed up. Your juices are flowing.
Exactly.
And it's hard to knock a guy out at that point too.
Yeah, because you get kind of used to taking the shots a little bit, right?
Well, it's not even that. I'm just saying, like, your body is all warmed up. You're there. You're going. Your motor is running.
Exactly.
Your motor is running, man. You know?
Okay, I just wanted to mention a few more fights to you
Shoot.
that you had after the
Yes.
Tyson fight.
Yes.
The Louis Monaco fight, which I've seen on YouTube,
Yeah.
very entertaining fight,
Yeah.
actually. I felt like if you'd have had the fitness that maybe you had earlier on in your career, you probably would have won that fight, from my judgment. But what are your memories of that fight?
Okay. It's short and simple. If the fight was in Boston, I would have won that fight easy. See, people don't realize. Now, all right, let's take it was in Denver, Colorado.
His hometown, right?
It was a little bit of a short notice fight. A little bit of short notice, 30 days notice. Now, that being said, why does the baseball go? Do you ever watch baseball?
Not really. It's not very popular
All
over
right,
there.
all right. In America, baseball is big, huge. And obviously football, American football is huge. Both of those sports are huge in this country. So, now the baseball flies so much further. Like Ken Griffey Jr. had the home run record a couple times in the 90s, early 2000s in baseball. Why? Because the ball flies through the sea. Denver is in the mountains. It's in the mountains. The air is thinner, high altitude, and Monaco is from Denver.
Yep.
He's from Denver. He's used to it. Now, again, we got there only like 4 days, 4 days want to fight. So I did some light training. Like I ran 2 times, trained the boxing, and but when you're that close to a fight, you're not sparring because you don't want to get cut or a broken nose or anything like that. So you're light training, but when I was running and I was in the boxing gym, no problem. But then when we got to the fight that night, now back then, the whole smoking, the air is thin in the mountains. And like I said, Monaco is from there, so he was used to it.
Right.
He was already used to it. And I give him all the credit in the world. Good for him.
He was a tough man as well, right?
He beat me fair and square.
And you know what? He also beat a few other big names: Michael Dokes, Kevin McBride.
Oh my God! Listen, Michael Dokes was no joke. Michael Dokes could fight. I don't care how old he was. Now, Dokes had Monaco down on the canvas twice in that fight, and they gave the decision. Wait.
No, I think Dokes got. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Monaco had Dokes down at least once. I don't know. But I did not see the fight. But Dokes, anybody that doesn't think Michael Dokes is tough or a good fighter, watch Michael Dokes versus Evander Holyfield. Now, Holyfield was just moving from cruiserweight to heavyweight. Dokes. I mean, in the air, like Dokes could hit
Definitely.
in combinations to the body and to the head.
Yeah.
Like nobody ever did combinations to the body as a heavyweight like Michael Dokes.
Okay, so what can you remember about this fight? I think it was one of your later victories against Harry Funmaker. Is that how you pronounce his name? Funmaker?
Yeah, yes.
So he was a
Now
tough kid as well, right?
They called Harry. Harry was a Native American.
Yeah,
It's not politically correct to say it today, but he was an Indian,
yeah.
a Native American, an Indian. So,
A big
but
guy as
they
well.
called Harry Funmaker Butterbean with a tan, and Harry beat Butterbean
He did.
2 times.
Yep, at least once. But
So
yeah, I'm not
so
sure.
again, no. So I beat the funny thing was that fight was on my birthday,
Oh, wow.
October 6th, 1998. Happy birthday, Peter! and it was in Kansas City, Missouri. I knocked Funmaker down once, and it was a 6-round fight. And I beat him on a lopsided unanimous decision. And Harry was a good guy. Harry was a good guy. Another guy out of the ring, great guy. Like one time, we're talking early internet. He wrote on HurricanePeterMcNeeley.com. Go in peace, brother. No, that's a good guy right there.
Yeah.
That's now speaking of Butterbean, now the Butterbean fight again, another one, a little short notice, and I had fought Brian Nielsen
You went to
in
Denmark for that one, right?
Copenhagen. Went to Copenhagen, 8 days notice. I mean, that's what happens to pro fighters at the end of their careers.
Yeah.
People don't understand that. My wife, she saw my videos, but she never saw live my career. We got married in our mid to late 40s, and but God bless her. But now Butterbean usually fought between 340 pounds and 360 pounds. But for me, he got in shape. He weighed 311.
Okay. Still quite a heavy weight, right? But for him, yeah, it's a big.
Oh, no question. But you know what? Now that fight was very controversial, the way I see it. If you watch on YouTube, very. Now, unfortunately, this fight was now for Bob Arum. Bob Arum did not like us because because we had been with Don King for 4 years. So back then, Don King and Bob Arum were arch rivals. They did not like each other.
And was Butterbean being managed by Bob Arum at the time?
Say yes, yeah, he was Bob Arum's boy.
Yeah. And
Giving Bob Arum a little credit, he had invested a lot of time and money and effort into Butterbean. So, all right. Now, today everything about CTE is the big thing. There was no CTE talk back then.
No.
Nobody cared. And back then, if you got knocked down, then okay, that's something. But there was no knockdown in that fight.
No, it's true. Yeah.
And he called me he couldn't punch. Could not punch. Not even a little bit.
Just heavy weights, like no technical ability.
No, he couldn't punch.
No, it just didn't
He
have
could not punch.
there. Didn't have power there, you mean? Or
People ask me on Facebook and Instagram all the time. Now, Mike Tyson, Henry Agawandi, they can punch. They can punch.
who would you say was the hardest hitting opponent you came up against in your career?
All right. Now, combining speed and power, Mike Tyson easily. Because Mike Tyson was just so nobody expected him to be fast because he was so and people think he's really short. Mike is, and it's a fact. Mike is 5'11" and a half. He's only half inch below 6 foot, and I'm not even officially 6'2". I'm 6'1" and 3/4.
I can one day was what, 6'9" or something?
Now again, I took that fight in Tallahassee, Florida, on 9 days' notice. It was St. Patrick's Day. So we fly. Wait, so before we left here, before we left Boston, I trained my butt off one day at this gym. Now, unfortunately, at this time, the gym in Whitman had shut down. It's back open again. It's been back open again for years. But, there was something wrong with the building. The Cliff Whitman, something was wrong with the building. So the gym was actually shut down. It was a plumbing problem.
Okay.
And we were going between the Petrelli gym, like Goody ran at night, and Capiello gym, like a mile away, also in Brockton. But neither of these gyms had working showers. All right, so you train your butt off. Now it's late winter. It's still cold. You train your butt off. You're sweating, and you gotta go out into sweaty clothes, regular clothes, and out into the cold. You're gonna get sick. Sooner or later, you're gonna get sick. So I ended up getting sick, and Vinny calls me and said, now another thing that happened was we got this late. It was March 8th or 9th, and we got this late winter blizzard, snow, ice and snow, and me and my little brother are in Medfield, and my little brother was studying to be an electrician at this point. Today he's a full electrician, but this time, and so a bunch of ice and snow and ice were on this big tree right up against the house of Medfield, and the branch came down and took the power cord out of my mother's house with it. And me and my little brother go out there, and like, wow, we had no power, which no heat.
Right. Okay.
So
this is
my little brother goes,
Monday fight.
my little brother goes, hey, I got an idea. And he was smart. He was a smart kid. And he says, so he grabbed the jumper cables out of his car, like to jumpstart your car, the battery.
Yep.
And he put the jumper cables on the wire, on the broken wire, and he got a low flow of electricity to come back into the house. So he got like the TV on and like one light on, but it wasn't enough of a flow to kick on the heater. So I mean, only this shit happens to me,
So you didn't have the best preparation for the fucking one-day fight, that's for sure.
No, like I was in great physical condition, but next thing you know, I'm sick again, and by now it's late. It's the second to last fight of my career, and if I pull out of that fight on short notice like that, I'd be lucky if they ever offered me another fight. You know what? Henry could punch. Again, I wasn't feeling great, but Henry could punch, and not fast, but again, I was not at my best, and physically, and I went right at him, and it went to the second round. But in the middle of the second round, hey, he got me. He could punch. He got me. No excuse. He got me. Hey, he got me. He can punch. So now to the last fight of my career. So now I'm pissed off. I'm like, geez, now it's my time. Now it's my time. Because it's, a couple weeks went by. Now it's starting to get warm. The spring's here. So I'm running, I'm boxing every night. And once a week for 10 weeks, I would run 3 miles, bike 16 miles, actually bicycle outdoors on a mountain bike, and then box. Did that once a week for 10 weeks. I was in the best shape I've been in since the Tyson fight. Yes.
This was Bernardo.
So now we take the fight on 9 days notice. And I'm like, great, let's do it. Let's go. And I'm thinking, I'm gonna kill this guy because I've never heard of the guy. And
it was a big name in kickboxing, right?
Exactly. He's a huge. See, kickboxing is, as you know, kickboxing is huge in the whole country of Africa and all of Asia.
And in Europe, it's pretty big as well.
But I bet it is. But hey, again, now, so we fly to London. 12-hour layover in London. we land at Gatwick Airport.
Right.
We get our luggage. And then we go to Heathrow Airport. And we sit there for 11 hours. I'm like, Vinny, please tell me another story. Just to pass the time.
Yeah.
To pass the time,
Airport. Were you doing any training in like the airport terminal and stuff?
No.
Nah.
But we did a lot of walking. So then we get on a plane. When we get on a plane at Heathrow Airport, from Heathrow to Cape Town, 12-hour flight. So when you get there, it's like you've been awake for. We were awake for like 52 hours, and your body's all mixed up as far as time change and jet lag. But you know what? Hey, I went right at Mike. Went right at him. You know what? Mike caught me a great punch. He caught me caught me a left hook. It was either a left hook or right here. But whatever, whichever it was. He caught me with a great punch, only to set me up for an even better punch. Now, I went down. I mean, I was spread. I was the spread eagle. On the canvas. And I beat the count. I got up at like the count of 8. And hey, the referee said, no, that's it. And you know what? Hey, that's what, that's what's supposed to happen. Maybe, again, maybe if I'll tell you what, I was so goofed up. Well, immediately after, like they hadn't even announced the winner yet, and I thought the fight was still going on.
Oh wow! Yeah. Was that from the?
I was up on my feet, but I thought the fight was still going on. I was throwing punches in the air. But hey, I came out of that quick, and Mike Bernardo, he was a good guy.
Yeah,
good guy. We hung out for a little bit after. Like, good guy. Took pictures together. You gotta remember too. Like, at this point, it's 2001, so relatively speaking, it wasn't out. It was 5 years after I fought Mike Tyson. Less than 6 years after I fought Mike Tyson. So they could have been happier to hang out with me and talk to me.
Yeah, right. Before we wrap it up, Pete, I just wanted to ask, like, what's your life like now in 2021? What's life like for you at the moment? Obviously.
As you can see, I love my vape. But like I told you earlier, I love going to my local boxing gym. I loved going to the fights this past Saturday. I loved that we came out with 2 big wins for the team. And that's what it's all about giving back to what was once so freely given to me.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And I'm married to a beautiful woman. Like I said earlier, my wife. She's awesome. Well, thank you. She's awesome. Oh my God, can she cook? Now people think she's Irish. People think she's Irish because she's blonde.
Okay.
And she's fair skinned, but she's 100% Italian.
Nice, perfect.
Her parents come out the boat from Italy. she's bilingual.
Oh.
Her first language in life was Italian.
Okay.
I'll joke with her. I'll go, honey, speak Italian. I'll say it to my friends. I'll go, look, honey, speak Italian. Oh, hey, one night, no, her father passed away, and he was an awesome guy, great guy. He was in perfect health, but he passed away from early COVID. Like, there was no vaccination shots. People in the Lincoln area, specifically the Boston area, were dying left and right. You know what? The guy was a great guy. I loved him. My Italian father-in-law.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
He said, "Go on, kid." He go, "Go on, kid." And we would go for a drive. We go to wherever, pick food up or pick whatever up. Sometimes he just liked to get out of the house. And he go, "Come on, kid." Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it was funny because he did not understand. Like, one time we went to go pick up his food, and I wanted to get the food quick because I'm a heavyweight. I still weigh 220 pounds, and I was hungry.
Yeah.
I'm still 220. I still love to eat. So I said to the guy, we pre-ordered the food on the phone. The place was so good that there was like a line there every day, So, but it was, when we got there, it was a small line. So I said, the guy says, "Hey, what's your name? You got food ready?" I said, "It's under McNeeley." And the guy turns around and goes, "Are you Peter McNeeley from Mike Tyson?" He goes, "Yes, I am." We're talking. And so Anna Rita's father says, "Hey, did you know that guy?" And he said, "No, I didn't know him." He says, "What was he talking about?" I goes, "The Mike Tyson one." He goes, "Oh, yeah, I understand."
Still popular, right? Still popular in Massachusetts.
Hey, yeah, it comes and it goes. It's enough now that it's comfortable.
I'm glad to hear.
It's comfortable.
I'm glad to hear, yeah.
It's comfortable.
Well, you deserve
Like,
it, man.
my wife gets nervous. Don't answer the door so quick. You never know when somebody might come in and try and hurt you or hurt us. I'm like, relax. Relax. I'm like, honey, I'm still 220 pounds and I can still punch. I'm like, nobody's coming here. Nobody knows I live here. Nobody knows. I'm like, relax.
Okay, buddy.
Hey, Jack, life is great. Thank you very much for the interview.
Yeah.
Please do it. One more thing. I love you, Anna Rita. That's my wife.